Well, here we go again. Hello, my fellow sorcerers, and welcome then to Season 8 proper. I hope you are having a lovely time farming your way through to Torment, level 60, the boss powers, and all of that good stuff. And to aid you in that journey to true endgame, I am here with your best kind of progression build, right? You get to level 60 using the leveling build, you break into Torment 1, then you switch to what I'm about to show you, and you ride the sweet power it provides all the way to being established on Torment 4, where I will be back to upgrade you once more. However, do you want the bad news or the good news? The good news is, as you can see, I am just hilariously walking through the Pit 40 Torment 3 unlock, and this is literally the run that unlocked it for me. My gear is terrible, nothing's fully upgraded or tempered, I've got like an ancestral, I'm missing uniques, but what does it matter because Lightning Spear goes burr. The bad news is Lightning Spear goes burr, which is bad news because it's not Ice Shards going burr. Now don't get me wrong, Ice Shards will be good enough to be strong on Torment 4, but it's not quite up there. There are many builds between it and the peak of our power this season. Lightning Spear, Lightning Spear, Lightning Spear. However, Frozen Orb is back, at least right now, in this sort of middle bridge build. And that's because of one very important change it got in Season 8 thanks to Fractured Winterglass. That being, your Frozen Orb will spawn a conjuration on your action bar, which essentially means, as we only put Lightning Spear on our bar, every Frozen Orb has a 50% chance, or whatever your roll is, to spawn a Lightning Spear, which means even with low gear early on, we can reach that 10 Lightning Spear sweet spot and start absolutely flying with it sooner than ever, which admittedly is really satisfying and powerful. I've already had spears hit for up to 200 million, again in terrible gear, and it's no slouch when it comes to your boss ladder farming either, getting your powers and getting your uniques. We have better boss killing builds like Fireball at this stage, but it's not that much better that it's worth playing it over this because the sheer speed this goes with both teleport on your bars and the teleport enchantment is hilarious. It is such efficient speed farming, and it really is the best way to traverse the torments. So, without further ado then, let's get into this incredibly tanky, near impossible to die, one-shot everything, wonderful transitionary build that has so much more power to gain before you make the full swap to pure Lightning Spear. Even if I am a little bit disappointed, we're still Lightning Speary. The scaling on it is just unlike anything else Sorcerer has, and until that changes, it's going to be really difficult to compete with it. But fear not, I will of course be bringing you lots of goodness throughout the season. There is lots of fun ways to Sorc, but to begin with, we always want that power. Alright then, and as a big bonus to it, it's really easy to get this online. Splintering energy comes from a dungeon, so we can unlock it. In fact, I'm still using the base rank of the aspect, because I've not had it drop naturally. I'm using the base codex one. The initial uniques aren't too bad. Getting a Lord Zia is fairly comfortable, because you just farm Helltide and you get a load of blood. It's one of the fastest boss keys to actually get a hold of for the Horde. Everything else is just kind of optional to make it all better. And with new Obel gambling having really good ancestral rates, you can get yourself an ancestral two-handed staff really easily, which is what I did. So it really is winning in every category. The first time in Season 8 then, let's get into the skill tree. Any 2 points in your basics, just so we can move on. Grab yourself a Frozen Orb. We only need 1 point because we're not using it for the damage, it's just to generate lightning spears. Then get your enhanced, so we can then get to greater, so it becomes a vulnerable machine just to help smooth out our vulnerable uptime. We have it from multiple sources, but this one is very, very reliable. Then we want to fill out potent warding, because as we power through the Torment tiers before you've got good ancestral gear, actually getting your res cap's going to be quite difficult, and this helps massively with that. We are trying to bandage over everything we can to just push to Torment 3 and 4 to get the best gear farming coming in, and this is a way to do it. Over then to our defensives, where we get Flame Shield just to have it, so we can help stack Enlightenment with a fire skill, and we have the oh no button to go immune to various nasty effects. We get ourselves a Teleport, as always, the gloriousness that it is, and it's going to be your first enchantment slot. This way we can double teleport, which is lovely because it helps us stack up this mystical teleport to get crackling energy, as we will need a supply of crackling energy for both Paragon and later down the skill tree. Then we fill out Glass Cannon, which is just a huge amount of multiplicative damage increase for barely any more damage taken now, and then we get Ice Armor along with Enhanced and finally Shimmering, so it's basically permanently up from the mana we're spending. Then we put a 1 point in Elemental Attunement. This is actually just a free spare point at the end of the tree, so you can put this anywhere, but I've just put it here because at least then there's some value. After that, you want to get Frost Nova down to Enhanced and then to Mystical. Now, before you get the rune that lets you generate Frost Novas from runes, you want to use this as your enchantment. So all of the spears are going round, firing off the Frost Novas and giving us this multiplicative damage increase. However, once you get yourself Thule and can get Frost Novas from invoking a rune in your armor, well, you no longer need this to be your enchantment, so kind of keep that in mind. Then we go over to Conjurations, where we grab Familiar into Enhanced Familiar, and then finally Invokes. We get that 10% multiplicative while it's out. We'll summon them during unstable currents, and once you do have Thule and you're doing Frost Novas via runes, well then you want Familiar to be your other enchantment, so we can keep summoning it out and maintaining that buff without putting it on our bars to muddy the choices from our Fractured Winterglass. Then we want to get Lightning Spear, max it out because the actual raw damage of it matters, and then go down to Enhanced and Invoked for the stuns. We want to max out Primordial Binding, of course. That is everything we could need in this build for our Conjurations. Grab Mana Shield for the damage reduction from our Frozen Orb spam, and then the usual protection so we can keep rolling and maintaining our barriers. Then we go over to your Masteries, where all we care about is just the free 18% multiplicative from Inner Flames, and that is it. To our ultimates then, where we get the trifecta of Frosty Goodness, that's essentially great on every build, Permafrost, Icy Touch, and then Hoarfrost. We want to get Elemental Synergies just for more free damage, and then the lovely extra cooldown reduction to make everything play faster, and therefore more Lightning Spears. Grab yourself Unstable Currents. I like to put your full points into it, so we lower that cooldown as much as possible. That becomes less necessary the better our gear gets, but for now it's really useful, as is the 25% attack speed. We ideally will eventually reach the sweet spot of permanent Unstable Currents, but for now we need all the help we can get. Then we go down into Conduction, so we can get to Convulsions for that 15% multiplicative damage increase for Crackling Energy, which is why we're generating it with Teleport. Then our key passive is going to be your Enlightenment, as it is just too strong to pass up, especially for what we're doing here, as the other options just don't stack up to it. This then gives us our skill tree. Your bars will look a little something like this. Playing it is very, very simple. You just essentially spam all of your buttons. It's Diablo 4. Use your Lightning Spear off cooldown. You want to double teleport across the place to just power through the dungeon. Use your Unstable Currents on cooldown. Use your Ice Armor on cooldown. And you guessed it, unless you're against a particular particularly dangerous boss, use your Flame Shield on cooldown. If you are against a dangerous boss, then, oh, that near 200 million hit. Oh my god. In any case, you want to save it for a Blood Echo, etc., something that will actually threaten you. Otherwise, it's just a very straightforward, spammy, go fast, move fast, hit everything playstyle. As you well know, it's Lightning Spear. So when it comes to your gear then, you want to make sure you have a two-handed staff specifically, so we can double up our splintering energy, which goes on there. As I say, I'm still just using the base one, but it does the job. Then on our spare ring, you want Storm Swell. That's why we want that ice armor uptime. It's very, very potent. On your gloves, as your last defensive aspect, you want Shredding Blades. If you don't have a Tal Rashes yet, you can just use Conceited on the other ring. You need to have the Fractured Winterglass to swap to this. That's kind of the main thing. So on our legs, you want Snow Veiled, so that we have the damage reduction while in ice armor, which should be pretty much permanent. Then on your chest, you want Ever-Living for even more damage reduction from Vulnerable. And lastly, on your helmet, you have the Orange Herald to help with that Unstable Currents uptime. Now, very specifically, this helmet should be Godslayer. Ideally, that's the best early non-mythic use for this slot, and if you have Godslayer, like I don't, but if you do, you want to put it on, and then you swap the Ever-Living for the Orange Herald, as you want to maintain the Orange Herald. Other than that, we finally have our uniques. You want good old-fashioned Tal Rashes in any form. Its damage is absurd. We want Fractured Winterglass, so we can, do the entire build. The thing that most matters is the chance to spawn a Conjuration when you cast Frozen Orb, and of course your Primordial Binding ranks. It's also a really nice transitionary build because we get All Resist as an extra affix here, which helps too, alongside our other unique that we really want. It's not needed, but Rakenov's Wake as your boots. That All Resist is great for progressing through the tiers, the cooldown reduction is lovely, the non-physical is lovely, the movement speed is lovely, the ideal attacks reduce evade cooldown. This thing is just brilliant. There's a reason we've all been using it for many, many seasons. However, if you don't have it, but you do have a Yen's Blessing, that can be used until you have it. It's not a bad option, otherwise you're just stuck with normal boots. So, the runes and then your gems. You want critical strike damage in your weapon, you want armor in your jewelry, and you want intelligence in your one free piece of gear. For your runes, you want Surgar to get critical strike chance as max as possible, keeping that maintained. And then ideally in your other one, as I say, you want Thule to trigger the Frost Nova. And the Offering Generator, just whatever the best one you have. The 25 from casting a skill, the 50 from a cooldown, from spending mana is also solid, CCing enemies is solid, just the best way you can to generate the Frost Nova Thule. For your affixes then, on the staff, you want very specifically literally this: intelligence, max life, and critical strike damage. On your one free ring, you want critical strike damage, attack speed, and critical strike chance as your 3, though max life isn't the worst. On your gloves, you want attack speed, critical strike chance, and critical strike damage. On your legs, you want intelligence, max life, and armor. And on your chest, you want intelligence, max life, and mana per second. If you are using a normal helmet, intelligence, max life, and ranks to conjuration skills is ideal. Other than that, we will move on to tempering and masterworking. On your staff, you want critical strike damage and chance for lightning spear to deal double damage. On your ring, you want critical strike damage and unstable currents cooldown reduction. I got bricked on deep freeze. I need to do a hordes and get a reset. It's really annoying, but yes, unstable currents cooldown reduction and critical strike damage. On your gloves, you want critical strike damage, and then it's kind of dealer's choice. I've sort of just put random stuff on one for now, as it's not ancestral and it's not hugely important, but barrier generation does help keep you alive. On your legs, you want percent total armor. I was going for Frost Nova size for when I get the rune, but again, I got bricked on Blizzard side here. On the chest, I wanted again more barrier generation, got bricked on Fortify, but you do want the percent total armor. Ideally, until you get to full ancestrals and properly good gear, you want 2% total armor tempers so you can actually make the armor requirement of the Torments. Even now, I'm a little bit under on Torment 3, so I need to sort that out. And then your helmet should be Godslayer, so I have not tempered it. When you're looking at masterworking, just the critical strike damage everywhere. Where there isn't critical strike damage, you want cooldown reduction on non-physical, and on your winterglass, the ranks to primordial binding. Boss powers then. Our main power of choice is going to be Uravar's lobbed bombs, and this is pretty much just for the 15% cooldown reduction. It really helps early on when we don't have a lot of cooldown reduction. We have a 35-second unstable currents right now. If we get rid of that, we jump up to 41. That's an extra 6 seconds off. That is too good to pass up, and that's essentially it. The damage is also, just fine, but the cooldown reduction is everything. The supporting cast actually matter a lot more here. We have Incinate's Flames to get increased damage to all elements. That's obviously fantastic for us. Then we get Hatred's Embrace, which gives us a ridiculous amount of crit chance. This is also just wonderful. Critting is everything here, of course. And then the Pièce de Resistance, Beastmaster's Training, which is one of the big reasons that Lightning Spear is dominating even now, because this is a huge increase to Lightning Spear damage, and this is the one you want to upgrade first out of all of them. Get it to rank 20 and enjoy the damage. Early Paragon then, I'm obviously at 122, 150 points to spend. This is what we want to be doing. You start, head up and left to get the all resist, and in general as you go, you might want to put extra points into more all resist, especially if you're pushing Torment tiers early like I am when your resist starts to flag, but always keep an eye on your resist. You really want to make sure that you are hitting that cap. Now that I'm on Torment 3, I do need to try and patch that up and think about it, so always pay attention to that with your Paragon, with your gear. Get your 70% resist caps going. In any case, we want to head up here, get Resilience, then go to the right, up through Elementalist, up to this Dex, over to the Glyph, where we slot and place Unleash, get it activated. The mana and the damage helps a lot for spamming Frozen Orb. We want to grab Studied while we're here, and then go up through Elemental Balance into the first board, which, as always, is our ever-reliable fundamental release. So we want to head up and right to grab Suffused Resilience. Eventually we will be filling out all of these extras, though you can get the all resist, which again, as I said, is a worthwhile investment, but for now we just want to get the main rare nodes, which is why we then head left and grab Kindling, the critical strike damage, obviously wonderful here for splintering energy. Then we go up through fundamental release, and we want to head right to this intelligence. We'll quickly branch off to get electromagnetism, and then we'll go up to the glyph where we grab elemental balance, we grab this dexterity as we will need it, and then here we have destruction slotted and activated for now. This is not where its final position will be if we had more Paragon points and the ideal board setup, but we just want it online as it's our biggest damage increase for splintering energy. Then we want to head left and grab your lightning cutter and make sure it's all active. Any spare points to get more dexterity isn't a bad thing here. Then we go up and left from fundamental release to grab overdrive. Then we head into our first extra board from the right of electromagnetism through the gate, and this is going to be static surge. Again, this is temporary for now to help with the mana cost of spamming frozen orb. It won't be on the final one, but it is very useful at the moment. So we want to arrange it like this, and then head in and up past blessing, which we grab, down to Static Surge to activate that, then up and right through Incapacitate to the glyph where we slot and activate Elementalist, and also grab Electro. I've also grabbed the extra bit of grit here just while I have a spare point, and it's not doing anything better, but as always, any critical strike damage you can get is very, very good. Then we head left through past Overdrive into our next board, placed with the glyph in the bottom right, and then we want to make a straight beeline for the new buffed and improved post-PTR Enchantment Master. This is very, very nice now. As we head up to it, we grab Blessing on the way and then get it online. We will next be going down to the glyph slot, we will be getting Tactical, we will be getting Elemental Balance, and then we will be slotting and activating either Exploit or Tactician. We will then be going north from here into the final board, which is going to be your Frigid Fate, where we will slot the other that you didn't put in there. That's a kind of quick TLDR on the current level of Paragon. Mercenary-wise, you want Subo as your main, very specifically just for this, 25% multiplicative more critical strike damage for 4 seconds. You'll do huge numbers during this, that's kind of it, and his enemy spotting is also marginally useful. And then Rahir just to give yourself the Bastion as a little bit of get out of jail free card whenever he runs in. Other than that then, ladies and gentlemen, we are done for our opening Torment 1 to 4 Sorcerer build. There's a reason all the Sorcerers are doing this. This is of course my version of it, but it is very, very potent. I will be back as soon as possible with the more peak endgame version of it once Frozen Orb has disappeared, somewhat sadly because it's a really fun skill to cast, so watch out for that. For now then, let me know how you're enjoying Season 8, like if you've enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more, consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.